So last year I picked up a RED Komodo and I've been slowly tweaking the rig just to get it how I like it along the way. So I like to keep rigs as compact as possible. Compact, which is one of the main reasons why I was drawn to this camera in the first place. So I'm going to quickly spin through where I'm at with it and why I've chose to do it in the way that I have. I'm not going to go into detail. If you are interested in any of the pieces in particular, I'll pop a list in the description so you can go and have a peruse. First off is the brain, the Komodo itself. Obviously, I popped this on an Arca Swiss plate from one of my other tripods from Three-Legged Thing. Three-Legged Thing, great tripods by the way. This then sits on a small rig quick release plate. Why I've done it this way will become apparent. That then sits on another small rig base plate with two little rod clamps, and then the camera attaches to this whole thing. I then picked up two short 15mm rods. They're slightly on the short side, but I'm able to fit everything that I need onto them, and again keeps the rig small and compact. All of this sits on a Kessler quick stand. Now I picked up the XL version by accident. It is a bit big, but I know it ain't going anywhere when I put that camera down. This then screws under the bottom of the base and makes for just a rock solid base for the whole thing. Now I grabbed the RED outrigger handle. I know it's expensive, and I did have one of these wooden handles. The button on the handle is so useful, especially since the touchscreen on the RED itself isn't brilliant. It's really well made, and as you'd expect, sits really nicely on the camera. So I personally think that it's worth the money. So I needed something to mount the handle to the top of the camera, and the outrigger handle doesn't have anything to mount to. So I grabbed an 8-sin. I grabbed an 8-sin 90mm NATO rail that just sits flush along the top of the outrigger handle. So since I picked up the Komodo second hand, it came with the little RED wing grip. I don't actually have a cage sat on the camera. They don't really mount too many things to it. That does give you more mounting options on that side of the camera and kind of serves as a second handle when you want to dual wield the thing. The handle I got is Nitsy. Why can't I pronounce any of these names? It's called the Nitsy Stinger handle. It's probably one of the best handles that I've ever used. It sits on the NATO rail that I've got on top, but also has another NATO rail as part of the handle on top. And it's got this sort of like ribbed, which is like really nice to hold. And the handle itself doesn't come too high off the camera, which I know a lot of handles do. So I popped another small NATO rail on the front of the handle, which I use to mount my monitor to. I just like NATO rails. They're quick and easy to use. They're nice and secure NATO rails. This bit isn't really all that essential, but I've got a little cold shoe mount on top of the wing grip on the left-hand side. It's useful when you need to pop a microphone on the camera. It's small, discreet, doesn't get in the way, so I like to keep it on there. So in terms of power, the BP batteries that come with the camera are surprisingly pretty good. I've got a lot of V-mount batteries that I've used on previous rigs, so I grabbed a Tilta V-mount battery plate that slots on the back of the camera. There's lots of ports for powering all your gubbins off the same battery. I don't actually use them in my case, but they're there should I need them. I've got a few RF lenses, but the DZO Vespids are probably one of my favorite lenses that I picked up recently. They're built really well and they've got a really subtle character to them that I really like. And for the price of them, you can't really knock it. I also use a Canon speed booster to get an extra stop of light and get that full frame look from the Komodo's Super 35 sensor. I then popped on a follow focus from Tilta. It's really well built and does the job. Now the monitor I use is a small HD Indy 7. I tend to lean towards bigger monitors because I like to really see everything when I'm lighting and framing up a scene. I did have the Ninja 5 on my previous build, but those extra 2 inches go a long way. And to be honest, you can't really trust the screen on top of the camera because it's so small. It's nice that it's there, but you can't confidently expose and frame a shot exactly how you want it to be with that little tiny screen, at least for me anyway. This then sits on a small rig NATO clamp that just screws into the bottom of the monitor. This then gives you 2 options to mount the monitor. either on the very front of the handle, which is generally where I like to keep it, or on the very top. The monitor itself doesn't actually use too much power, so I just use 2 small MPF batteries on there. I've got some other big ones as well. It eliminates the need for another wire going back to the V-Lock battery, but you could do that. The battery that I use to power the camera is this FX Lion Nano 2. It's a really solid battery. There's a little screen there to show you how much you've got left. You can get the Nano 1s, which are kind of half the size and half the power, but then you're not really getting too much power over the BP batteries that would just sit on the camera anyway. I use Angelbird cards. They're really good, and they even make the more expensive RED cards, and you just pay £100 more. I then use a right-angled SDI cable that I wrangle around the wing grip on the left. Maybe I could do this a bit better, but for now it works. One thing that I forgot to mention in my little top-down rig thingy was the whole point of the quick release plate. Sometimes I like to be a little bit lighter than this rig, so you can pop that whole thing off like that, and you shed in that. Makes it slightly lighter and easier to use, so handy. And that's kind of it. Obviously, compared to something like an FX6, you need to spend the time and money rigging this thing out, so it's a little bit more useful in real life scenarios. But it's good to have the option to use it, just the brick, as a crash cam or something like that, which makes it a really versatile body, I think. If you want to see some videos that I've shot using this exact rig, then I've got 2 videos on my channel, one in a more controlled environment and one that's in a not so controlled environment. You can get a feel for what you can get with this camera lens combination. Go and check them out. If you like this kind of stuff, then maybe subscribe if you want.
Yeah, boy.
How do people end these things?